everyone, welcome to another episode of 10 for the Chairman. For those of you that don't know, this is where I take 10 questions that have been asked by our subscribers and I answer them to the best of my ability, which hopefully is as good as anyone else on this project. The subscribers are the subset of the overall backer community that kick in extra money every month to allow us to do additional sort of content for the community. So there's 10 for the Chairman, Wingman's Hangar, some other shows that we're going to be doing. Also the Jump Point magazine that we do every month, which originally was going to be 4 to 6 pages, but is now something more like 50 to 70 pages. And we've also got some more content that we're going to be working on ongoing to try and bring more stuff to everyone that has backed the game. So you can see how we make the game, how we're going about it, what our thoughts are, and feel part of the team. So thank you to the subscribers for allowing us to do that. And speaking of backers, we have right here some nice New Hampshire maple syrup, lots of it for a big sweet tooth, and some maple bacon coffee, which I think so everyone can be wired on sugar and caffeine, which is brilliant. That comes from Screwball. He was says it was great to meet some of you at the PAX East Dogfight reveal. I know you've all been working some long hours to build up the best damn space sim ever. So here's some fresh taped Northern Comfort from the live 3 or die state to make your mornings a little brighter. Thank you for all you do. Live 3 or die state is New Hampshire, and I guess little data point is the original where Origin first started was actually New Hampshire, and the corporate headquarters of Origin, where I made the Wing Commanders and everything, was in New Hampshire. So there was a few times I spent up in New Hampshire, which was very pretty, although in the winter not particularly warm. So it's a very, very pretty state, so thank you very much, Screwball. And he also includes, if any of you are up for some Star Citizen karaoke, I've included some lyrics for your amusement. It would be awesome to hear you folks sing this as an Easter egg at the end of one of your videos. See you in the verse, Screwball. And he has a Back Me, which is by Screwball, based on Happy by Pharrell Williams. So anyway, we'll see what we could do with this. Could be fun. You never know. It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sometime next year we can take a break, like a trip to the moon. We could go to space. Paid the fare for the captain's chair. Now we're on the way. Because you back me. Da, 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 da. Anyway, let's get on to the questions. All right, first question is from Krell, who asks, will we see the effects of different levels of gravity in the first-person shooter part of the game? I know that you're going to support zero-G environments. How about high-G or low-G environments, such as a moon base? Will we walk with a heavier tread or a spring in our step? Basically, there's a full gravity system already in the CryEngine, and we've sort of been enhancing it. So you could set the gravity to Earth-like gravity, minus 9.8 meters per second, or you could set it to -1 or whatever you want to do, or 0, which is what I was in space. So there definitely potentially could be the ability to have gravity in between, like full Earth-like and 0-G. And we have things like magnetic boots that will allow you to sort of lock down to floors when there's low gravity or 0 gravity. So I guess the only question I would say is, walking with a heavier tread or a spring in your step would probably require different animation sets, because really the actual gait is controlled by the animation. I don't know, it depends on whether we're actually planning to have some like low G or heavy G environments, and then potentially we'd probably change out the animation set. But generally the physics of everything is actually supported. It's just the footstep to footstep bit that is more animation driven. Okay, next question comes from Ro, R-H-O, who asks, one of my favorite themes in space sci-fi is the danger that comes from isolation in deep space and the total reliance on the ship tech that you've used to get there. Star Citizen is focused on dogfighting, and that's super great, but outside of that core mechanic, will there be experience where the biggest danger isn't pirates or bounty hunters, but rather the environment itself, perhaps during deep space exploration or mining? Yes, so we're absolutely actually focused on having things that are not combat's obviously a large part, but we want experiences that are non-sort of combat oriented, so exploration experiences, flying into a dangerous nebula that could take down your radar or make your electronics a bit glitchy. In fact, in Squadron 42, the opening missions around this Shubin mining base, which we've already shown, and there's a center to this sort of asteroid base that's sort of almost like, think of it like the Bermuda Triangle, where there's like all communications and stuff sort of doesn't really work in there. Your nav stuff doesn't work, so you've got to manually navigate. So we're actually looking at doing a fair amount of sort of environmental situation stuff that could be hazardous to your flight or danger. And the same kind of stuff that happens if you were trying to navigate a jump point. There'll definitely be a whole bunch of stuff that is non-combat oriented. There'll be that, and we want you to be able to have to, like maybe some of your equipment breaks down, you're flying, you have to go fix it up. The sort of classic sort of sci-fi scenes you've seen when someone's Scotty's trying to make the engines work on the Enterprise. So yeah, we are focused on that. That will be part of some of the stuff that we do on some of the capship stuff that the Foundry 42 team is working on. So they're going to bring some of that, but environmental effects on your ship is definitely a core part of what we want to do to sort of make the universe sort of feel big and alive and rich. Okay, next question comes from Anomaly47, who asks, part of what excites me is the business, manufacturing, distribution possibilities of the game, particularly in and around design of new things like new ships. Will you ever build a ship design/building module into the game where players, if they have the means, can design, manufacture, and try to sell a new ship, or potentially use them for their own purposes? Yeah, we actually want to figure out a way to get user-generated content into the game. In the persistent universe, we kind of have to curate it because you don't want everybody just designing and building their own crazy wild ships with unbalanced loadouts and all the rest of the stuff. But that was actually one of the core driving factors of the Next Great Starship, which was the competition we're running, and the level of quality in that is pretty astounding, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm actually not enjoying the final stages because I like so many of the ships, and I think all the teams are so talented that it kind of sucks that there's only going to be one winner. So there may be a way we try to find a way to get more of those ships into the game. But I definitely think there should be some way that we can have where people could potentially design ships or even items, maybe to specs that we publish and say we need this and this, kind of like, say the US government says, oh, we need a new aircraft. Well, let's put it out to bid, and they put out to bid, and then Boeing and Lockheed, well, they used to compete. I guess they're all the same now. But do their designs and get them into, and the winning bid makes it and goes into manufacturing and stuff. So potentially, I think definitely that. In terms of actually manufacturing in the universe, I like the idea that you have to go and get the raw resources to make the stuff, or make sure that you're sourcing the CPU components from another factory. And so, potentially we'll allow you to sort of acquire, you've got a ship factory, and maybe you can acquire a license to manufacture a certain kind of ship, and then you could be the local provider of that ship, or an NPC manufacturing center would be. So they're kind of split, I guess, the difference between people doing user-generated stuff and then actually stuff that you sell in game. But they're both things that we're looking at, and we long-term want to put in the game. Whether it'll be in the game from the very beginning, that's another question, because there's a lot of things for us to do. But that's definitely a long thing. I think the community providing a lot of the content, both just in terms of like adventure and action, and also things in general, is super good for the life of the game. I mean, that's one of the reasons why people still play Freelancer today, even though it came out over 10 years ago. Is because of the modding sides, and that's why we're supporting modding. So we are going to find a way to do that. So we're just going to have to juggle a bit, and of course on your own, if you're playing, you're modding your own stuff to play around your own little version of the universe, then you can do whatever you want. Okay, next question comes from Poltergeist, who asked, docking with other ships using the corral was on my mind. With most of the ships, the standard docking corral is in a funny place. You can't see it from the cockpit. Will the docking sequence be automatic, or will we be able to manually navigate our ships to dock with each other? So I guess the answer would be, you will always, your sort of ship flight computer will always be able to you get close enough, you can auto dock. But like everything, we'll let you try and do it yourself if you want. It probably may not be so easy, but in general, you normally we let you can land. You can sort of auto land, or you can land properly if you want. And we'd say probably do the same for the docking, although based on where all the docking collars are, get close enough and say, okay, auto dock would probably be the best way to do it. Okay, next question comes from Slack R, who asks, will ships in the dogfight module come with a manual? If so, will each ship type have a different manual? How similar are control functions across the different ship types? That's a really good question. I actually wasn't thinking about a manual for the dogfight manual, but now you've just given me ideas of claw marks in the old Wing Commander, so maybe we can sort of mark up a little PDF from each one of the manufacturers done up as a, hey, this is your Hornet manual, or this is your Aurora manual. So not promising that, but I may, after this recording session, go out and have a discussion of how easy it will be to do that. But outside that, the general control functions across the ships will be more or less the same. So the interface and like how you fly it with a joystick or a gamepad or a mouse or a keyboard will all be fairly consistent. It's just that some ships will have more functionality than other ships, so you just won't have as much, say, on a more basic ship than on a more advanced ship. But in general, the control functions operate more or less the same, especially on the fighters. So like the flight, the IFCS, all that stuff is similar. The difference is the ships themselves will handle differently depending on the thruster power, depending on their mass, depending on the placement of them, all that kind of stuff, depending on the energy drain, which is affected by also the weapon usage, all the rest. Okay, next question comes from Krasus, who asks, why was the decision made to not have a traditional friends list in Star Citizen and instead go with multiple organizations? Well, so the way we kind of thought it is, basically a friends list is like a flat organization. Chris's friends, right, could be one of my organizations, and I could have a bunch of people in that, and then I could also be a member of some other organizations like Bounty Hunters Incorporated or whatever, the Merchants Guild, whatever sort of organization I want to get into. And so for us, it just sort of felt like organizations really an organization could be a friends list. It's just a very flat organization, no boss, everyone's just in it as a group. Or you can have groups, organizations that are more hierarchical, which would be more like a typical organization or a guild. So it sort of felt like doing it this way gets to do the best of both worlds, so to speak. Okay, next question comes from Sniped YouNoob 555, who asks, I'd like to know what your current ideas are for the PlanetSide module. Will we just have the ability to land and explore the planet, or will you have an in-depth interaction with the environment? E.g., if it's a city environment, will there be shops, bars, and such that we could use, or will that be released in the later game stages? Chris Roberts, you the man. All right, thank you very much for that. No, so the PlanetSide module is essentially, we'll be opening up a bunch of the interactions that would happen down on the planet to everyone in the community to play with. So the idea is when you're in your hangar, there's like a door in all the hangars to the outside world, and you could go through that door and you would step out and you would be in a PlanetSide environment. And we may debut with just one, or we may debut with a couple, and you can wander around it. And in the environment, there would be shops where you could buy stuff. You go to a bar where you could talk to people and get, ultimately in the game, that's where you would get, you would look for sort of missions, or you would meet other players in the bar. So the idea of the PlanetSide module is sort of to test out and work on the functionality of all that would happen once you land from space. So you will definitely have the ability to wander around and have some in-depth interaction and do all that. And then as we go along, we would sort of be adding more functionality and action to it. And then as the persistent universe is rolling out, there'll be more areas to explore. But the PlanetSide stuff's one of our biggest tasks because there's just a lot of, I think we've got something like 450 different landing locations right now that we're talking about. And then you've got to build all the environments and the content. So we're really working pretty hard on how to do that in a way that matches up to our quality and fidelity, but it won't take 400 years to build. So I think we've got a pretty good solution that sort of uses a combination of unique stuff, some more sort of modular stuff, and we are longer term researching some kind of procedural stuff to help build out and flesh out some environments based on criteria that the economy system feeds in. The PlanetSide module is will all be sort of testing grounds for that, and eventually it will just roll into the persistent universe. So basically, so the hangar, sort of think of the hangar as the hub, and so the hangar now will get you to the dogfight, it will get you to the planet side, and then ultimately it will get you into the persistent universe. Okay, next question comes from Hellomax, who asks, will a player always know who they were killed by? Will you know who placed a bounty on you if a bounty hunter takes you out? So, well, I don't know whether necessarily if someone's hired someone to kill you, whether you would know who that person was. I mean, in the case of a bounty hunter, generally bounties are after you, bounty hunters are after you when there's a bounty that's put on your head, and mostly that's in lawful reasons. So I would assume that if you've broken the law and there's a bounty on your head and you can see your list on the most wanted list, then you would kind of know that, okay, the UEE or the authorities did this to me. If it was a private transaction, I'm not so sure. You probably will know who killed you immediately, like what character was flying what ship that took you out. But I'm not sure that you would necessarily know who ultimately caused the contract to be put on you if it was a private individual, just like in real life. Okay, next question comes from AWAX, who asks, could there be a possibility of a weekly or an even daily news show about current events in the verse that includes interactions between players, for instance, pirate raids or organizations declaring war on each other, and NPCs, like Operation Pitchfork, the UEE's Most Wanted, or alien race interactions? What about the possibility of a play-around broadcast like between two space ferns with wingmen, or the Dread Pirate Robert's literal pirate radio? Well, we're definitely actually planning on having a in-fiction news show that you would see like in bars and stuff, and we would let players also sort of watch it, say, from the RSI website. And that's actually part of the sort of post-launch content plan in terms of we would actually have people that their job would be to watch the game and see what events were happening, make sure that we capture sort of in-game footage of some of the events, and make news reports from around the world. So like if two big organizations get into a big battle over an asteroid base, that potentially could make frontline news. And that's part of the idea of trying to put in news that we're constructing for the universe, oh, there's a famine in this sector or whatever, as well as player actions, and blend it all into our world, so it feels like the players are just as much part of the world as all our designed NPCs, and they feel like their actions have consequence. And I personally, that's what I want in a game. I think that would greatly increase sort of the immersion into this world, and so we're planning on that, and it will be really great, I think, when it happens. So I'm pretty excited by that. And then the possibility of play-around broadcasts, I wasn't thinking about this, but I think that's actually a really good idea, and it's probably pretty easy for us to sort of provide sort of channels, just like you can on internet radio. So we probably could have like our channels, just like you can in GTA. You can listen to different channels as you wander around, and then maybe we have some player channels that people could have their own streams on, and then you could tell people and you could tune into it. So that could be pretty cool. So I like that idea. So I will see what we can do about that. Not promising again that it's going to be in right away, but I think that's potentially a very, very cool idea. Okay, last question comes from Stur, S-T-U-R-E. Will asteroids and other mineable resources be finite as they would be in real life, or will they regenerate over time? So we were thinking of making the general areas like asteroids and stuff be pretty close to finite. So there'll be a lot of minerals there, but if you mine out a whole asteroid field, then it gets mined out. Potentially we would play with some level of regeneration. I don't know, it's kind of a balancing issue. But in general, we wanted to sort of have finite pools. So if someone gets to an asteroid field and it's got a really rich seam of minerals that are very valuable, they are a limited quantity, and so people would mine them out, and then maybe they would have to go off and find out some other field or yield for that. So that's kind of the plan. The regeneration question is really just about, we're going to be adding new systems, so there will be new places for people to find and explore, and obviously new minerals to harvest. So that probably should handle it. But if we run into a problem where like everything's mined out right away, and we've got nothing for mining, then of course we'd probably start regenerating some elements of it. But I'm hoping we can balance it. So one of our goals is to actually run this sort of full economy simulation or universe simulation with no players, with the sort of meta AI that we've talked about, and with all these kind of sort of big macro elements like, okay, here's a asteroid field and it has this certain kind of minerals, here's a planet that has this sort of stuff that it produces, and then just sort of see how that works, runs, progresses. I will say that it won't be, mining out an asteroid field will not be something that someone can do in an hour, so it will take a long time and a lot of concerted effort from other people. Okay, so that's the end of the 10 questions for this week. I'd like to thank all the backers out there for backing the game, allowing us to make a game at this level. I mean, it's pretty unprecedented. I think we're at 43.7 or whatever million, which I never would have dreamed of, but it's allowing us to have a huge team and all the local. We got one here in LA where I'm talking to you, in Austin, in Manchester, UK, really talented folks working on the game in Montreal and in Denver, Colorado, and up in San Francisco and in Monterrey, Mexico, and a lot, basically, all trying to build this hugely ambitious game for all you to play and for all of us to play in. So thank you so much for backing, and thank you to the subscribers for kicking in extra money to allow me to do this and us to do a lot more of the community stuff. So I will see you next week. Bye.